Hello, everyone. So, first of all, I want to talk a little bit about our final project and kind of clear up a few things. And then I also want to um, kind of showcase a couple of tools and go through a couple of processes that some of you might be having some questions about. I've had a few students reach out about the final, and I want to clear up any confusion. So, I did an announcement, and I updated our course shell. But, if I'm going to be honest, we are constantly updating these classes, right? 3D graphics, for example, last year we did some things. We added spatial.io, which we never had done before. And this year I'm wanting to really kind of push that even further. And in part, that's because based on kind of feedback from the students and changes within our industry, there's a lot of stuff happening right now. And so, because of that, a lot of the traditional skills that would have been, in a lot of ways, the most important parts of some of our classes are well, kind of being replaced with AI, right? And so they're changing, they're modifying, they're doing a couple of things. So, for this class, I changed our final project. And so, if there's some remnants of the old final project stuff in some of our course shell, that's probably what's causing some of this confusion. So, I apologize. I meant it, the goodness of my heart, but I may have left something that might be a little contradictory. So, first of all, I want to clarify what the final project is. So, for the final project, I would like for you to create something in ZBrush or a different digital sculpting program. There are different programs out there while we are primarily looking at ZBrush for this class. And I do know it looks like Maxon might have played a little bit with their student version, so I haven't been able to find the student Maxon 1 pricing. ZBrush Core is $10 a month. And really, with us having an 8-week class, if you planned it right, you might only have to subscribe for 1 month. So it's not too bad. I don't feel bad asking for $10, since some of the books for some of our other classes are $70. And this class, we don't use a book. So if you want to go with that route, certainly you can, or if you have done that route. If you're using the virtual lab, first of all, I'm sorry. IT keeps telling me they fixed the virtual lab. I was in there literally just a minute ago. It's still rough. It works. It's something. It's an option. But if you're having a lot of trouble with it, then you can definitely look at some other tools. I have a few students that have reached out to me that are using Blender for this assignment. I've really given Blender a lot of consideration as a tool for this course because more and more indie developers are utilizing Blender. But at this point, I feel like 3ds Max and ZBrush just pack a more powerful punch on your resume than something like Blender. That may change. It may change really soon. I don't know. Again, I've been trying to add as many resources as I can for Blender because the students that want to use Blender have a lot of good reasons for it, and it's a great piece of software. So I don't want to, say anything negative about it other than ZBrush and 3ds Max are more traditional software applications that usually require a little bit more specialized training. And because of that, sometimes they can look a little better on a resume. But if you have an argument that's changing, I'm not going to argue with you. I think that it's going to be interesting to see what we are doing in 3D graphics in just a few years. Because I don't know. Anyway, so that's kind of clear up the final project. I want you to make an object in ZBrush. It can be one of the ones you've already begun working on in a previous week. It can be a brand new model. Again, if you want to finish up something you started maybe and turned it in for just the kind of sculpting practice assignments and you want to finish it up, that's fine. But when you go to export your model out of ZBrush, or if you're using Mudbox, or if you're using Blender, or if you're using Sculptris, or whatever program you want to use, there's going to be a couple of things you might have to do to the model to really get it to look right inside of whatever rendering program, game engine, or tool you want to use. In this class, we're looking at spatial.io. So, first of all, making sure that your mesh is optimized and possibly retopologized is going to be a key element. Now, ZBrush has some pretty cool tools kind of in it that you can utilize to do this. For this one, actually, I created used the live Boolean tools and created a brand new mesh combining my original model, which was two different subtools. It was this head and these eyeballs, and then using the live Boolean tool, which all you do is kind of turn on and then click make Boolean mesh, it created a new version here which has both of these guys together. But this model is still going to be way too many polygons for something like a game, so I'm going to need to optimize it down. Now, if you're utilizing the full version of ZBrush, there are some cool tools and scripts. Where are you? See script. Sorry, my resolution's a little slow. That you can use in here. That you can use Decimation Master or some of the other things. Sorry, under Z plugin and Decimation Master. Again, my resolution's low, so my menu kind of curves around. But what I can do is I can either, if I have UVW mapping, I can turn it on to keep it, or I can just not worry about it. If I have poly paints, I can try to keep it. But there are some tools that you can use inside the full ZBrush to project all those details back on later if you want to. So for this one, I'm just going to show you real easy. I'm going to do freeze borders because I really want this thing to not look that different. I'm going to go ahead and lower this number down even more to percentage of decimation. And I'm going to do pre-process current. Now again, this is my Boolean UMesh. Now depending on how complex your model is, this could take a long time or it could go kind of quick. When I was making this model, I kept it pretty simple. You can see it's not a whole lot to it. And that's because I was trying to just get an example for the class here. So give it a second. Okay, and now I can go in here and I can do decimate current. Now you can see here is the new model. Now if you're saying to yourself, hey, this looks pretty much exactly like the old one. Yeah, that's the idea. The idea is really to lower this down and create kind of a model that is lower resolution. Now, I can zoom in here and see. I'm trying to think if I need to make Polymesh 3D or not. Let me go ahead and click that and try this again. Pre-process current. I think it must have lowered it down because that went really fast. Let's do decimate. So here you can definitely see, and you can do this more than once, like if I need to. The only problem or bad thing about doing this method is the topology looks a little funky. Now if this were going to be used as a sculpture or just something in my scene or in my level, I might not worry about it. If I think it looks okay, I might call it good enough. There are some better tools once you get this low enough to kind of work with. You can go to geometry, and there is underneath, let's see, Z remesher here. You can actually remesh this model, and it will try to create a more optimized topology. So the model, will look good, but it'll also kind of make sense. Let's see, and I turned on half because I'm trying to lower this. Let's try it out and see how it goes. Now, the lower resolution your model is, the faster all this stuff will run. So I warn you, if it's really high, it may take a while. Now you can see here, it did a good job of optimizing it. My geometry looks really good, but I've lost a lot of those details. So let's maybe step back. I went Control Z twice. It went back to the beginning here. And let me try kind of Z remeshing this little bit higher resolution version of my model. Now you can see because this is a higher resolution, has denser geometry, this is taking more time. Okay, so when you're making your model, you're going to want to crunch it down as low as you can get without losing those details and sacrificing what you can. A lot of these details could also be put in the texture. So if I were to create a nice normal map, which ZBrush does very well, I could do that way and then keep a lot of those details. You can see here, this looks pretty good. I got a little bit of this pinching in here. I don't even know if I want it. I'm just going to smooth it out now after the fact with my lower res model. And then maybe I'll go and I'll use the pinch tool to try to redefine some of these lines that I'm losing. So again, I'm remeshing the model. It's looking good, but I'm kind of losing some of that detail. So I can go through them and try to add it back in. Again, some of this is trial and error. I'm going to be honest. Kind of balancing performance with how things look. Here you can see this is not working out. There, I'm going to mask this a little bit. Let me mask that out. Okay, so that I can pinch this. Again, I want to try to keep those lines. I really like the lines. Oh, I forgot to have symmetry on. So, Control Z, then hit X, then mask it, I will say the undo tool is probably the tool you work with the most, right? In all these programs. Um, thank goodness for that. All these sculpting tools are great, but man, that undo tool, where would we be without it? So that looks a little bit better. Let's do Z-Remesher again and see what we get. So again, Z-Remesher is trying to keep this shape, but then recreate the geometry. And you can definitely see it's working out. Again, I'm losing some of that crispness of the lines. What we can also do is try to maybe, I'll turn off half. Let's try to keep creases and try again. Let's see where we are. So this is again where it's not like a cooking show where I did all this beforehand, right? I'm kind of doing it on the fly. So I'm going to say that looks pretty good through here, but I don't want to lose that detail. I don't want to lose this detail. This line here is kind of important to me. I don't want to lose some of this edging through here too. Well, maybe not that. I'll keep that. All right, so let's try that. I'm going to do half. Now let's remesh it again. So you can actually kind of mask some of this out. So then I'm telling it, hey, I want it to be a little bit lower here and there, but not everywhere. Okay. Yeah. Again, could use some work. All right. For this, I'm going to maybe mask this out again. Actually, you know what? I'll just undo. I feel like that looked a little better. And maybe instead, I'm going to go to Dynamesh, and we'll try that one. So all these tools that I'm doing in here kind of automate this process, right? Like, I don't hate that. In fact, the geometry looks a little more alien, so that'll work. So these are kind of like the auto remeshing tools. You can also retopologize a model by hand. If I took this into 3ds Max, I could actually model a new version of this over the top of it and really have a lot of control. For this is not something that's going to be animated. It's not something that's going to bend and flex, so I'm not really that worried about the geometry. If I was, then I would definitely need to use something like Z-Remesher, because this is some funky stuff happening in here, right? You can see all those weird triangles. But this is going to be good enough for now. I'm going to hit export, and let's just export it to my 3D objects. Call this Mantis Head, and go from there. All right. I did have a student ask about doing the UVW mapping and poly painting. So if I had already painted this up, let's say I was happy with the model, I wanted to add some more resolution now to this lower res model and add in those poly paint details, I can go in here again into geometry and maybe hit divide a few times. And now I've went back to a higher resolution model, to a high resolution version, but at the lowest subdivision level, it's that new mesh I just made. So if I kind of go back down here, you can see there's kind of the lower res one, but there's more of the details. So now if I wanted to poly paint on this, I could. And I could also take this one that I've exported or re-export the lowest one, unwrap it, bring it in. I know that's kind of a lot to take in, and I apologize. I'm going kind of quick because I don't want to make this video too long, and it's probably longer than I intended. But there's some really great videos on YouTube and LinkedIn Learning that go through this a little bit slower. I'm going to stop this video here and go into a little bit more stuff for our final in the next video.